Greetings. What's up? It's Deborah Watts. Happy Friday to you. Woohoo! We made it. As I promised, I'm going to come on today very briefly to talk about the 4 stages. So, again, I'm Deborah Watts. I'm a resilience and relationship turnaround expert. I help Mavericks design their own unique style of leadership that is just their own. And today I wanted to tell a little very short story about building a business from the standpoint of dealing with family. Okay, so this is something that has been an ongoing on struggle, off struggle for me with my family because they really didn't understand my vision. They didn't understand why I was building my business. And they didn't understand why I left a lucrative engineering profession, a career basically, to start from scratch and struggle. And I used to get really, really frustrated with them for not really getting me, and also for giving me, to me at the time, it seemed like really discouraging, advice all the time. But once I learned this framework that I'm about to share with you, all of their words and their actions, first of all, they made sense. And second of all, I was no longer frustrated. So I was able to drop the judgment, let them continue doing them, and stay focused on my goal and my course and not get discouraged. So would you like the same framework that I used? I would love to share it with you. I'm going to tell it to you now, but if you would like the model for it so that you can have something visually to reference, let me know in the comments. So if you're here live, say, hey, what's up? Let me see you there. And if you're watching the replay, please type #replay. And if I see 5 different people comment on this video, I will post the model in the group. So here's a framework. There are 4 stages of development and growth that every single human being goes through in every single aspect of life. Now, I should say that they can be. Sometimes people never make it to stage 4. In fact, a lot of the times, unfortunately, they don't. But this would be the goal. So let me tell you about it. So stage 1 is codependence. Every one of us has had codependent relationships. That's the easiest example that I can always think of. And it's where there are 2 entities, groups, individuals, whatever it may be, that need each other, or at least believe that they need each other to exist. So it could be, and sometimes people use this analogy incorrectly in nature, but basically it may be like the man, I'm having a moment here. The flower that needs to be pollinated by the bee, right? So that it can keep growing and have its seeds, pollen disseminated and so on and so forth. Well, with people, it can be, usually it's like when I used to work primarily in marriages, it was usually, you see these codependent relationships, they usually look pretty toxic. There's a lot of depression, there's a lot of narcissism, there's a lot of all kinds of things going on because one person believes that they need something from the other person in order to be okay. Okay, so that's codependence in its rawest form. Rarely ever have I seen a good application for that, except for the sort of misapplication in nature. It usually doesn't work. Then you have dependence, which is when you need something from someone else to be able to function properly, right? But it's not like, so how can I explain this? Codependence is a form of dependence, but dependence can be something as simple as, children learning to walk and learning to run and needing your guidance to be able to, at the beginning when they're first born, to be able to eat. Or maybe even like an adult who has become disabled in some way and needs some support with being carried somewhere or being given a ride, those kinds of things. That's a physical dependence. Then you can have like an emotional dependence, which could be something like, a parent, a child being emotionally dependent on their parent for encouragement, for support for a certain period of time. So as you can tell, even with learning, anytime you're learning anything, you're in school, you're learning from a teacher or a coach or reading a book, you're in a sort of dependent state because you're now kind of like leaning on the expertise of someone else. You're learning from them. So dependence is a natural and normal part of life. The problem is when we get stuck there. Okay. Stage 3 is independence. And so this is when you're able to function on your own. You don't need anything from someone else. You don't need to read the book because you already have mastered the topic. You don't need your parents to change your underwear anymore. You don't need any of those things. You're able to function as a whole, complete unit. And then finally, there's interdependence. And interdependence is really where the flower and bee, true, that's the right application of it, where everything has its own role, everyone has their own role, and everyone is able to appreciate the beauty in the diversity. So the more diverse the ecosystem, the more diverse the group of people, the better, because each person is bringing some unique facet and aspect and skill to the group, to the collective. Okay, so those are the 4 stages. Stage 1 is codependence. And stage 1 and stage 4, to the untrained eye, can sort of sound sometimes or look sometimes similar, because for both of those stages, 1 and 4, it requires at least 2 parties. It cannot be done in isolation, in solitude, okay? Then 2 and 3, 2 also, because dependence is also requiring another party to be a part of that dependence thing, but it's a little bit easier to kind of sort of be dependent on your own than it is. Codependence is very clear that it's 2 pairings, and independence is something obviously you're on your own when you do. So with these 4 stages, our society in general is in stages 2 and 3. It's like people reach for 3 as the goal, to be the independent man, the independent woman, the independent company, the independent nation, whatever it is, right? That's usually the goal of our society, is to get to 3. And then there's kind of like a gradation with 3. We'll talk about that another time, with early stage 3 and late stage 3 and the difference in the characteristics there. But most people coming up, the average person, regardless of what country you're in, it doesn't matter. Culturally, this is universal around the world. Most people are in stage 2. They're dependent on an employer. If they lose their job, they're stressed because now they're like, how do I pay for bills? How do I do things? So there are so many different levels of dependence. There's dependence on the government for like guidelines as to what's right and wrong. There's dependence on our institutions like school systems to like teach us what we need to know, or religions, or all these different types of situations where there's nothing wrong with them, but they tend to keep people in dependence, not being able to make their own decisions, even in things as simple as like a healthcare plan. Okay, like, how am I going to treat my cancer? How am I going to heal my body? How am I going to live in a way that keeps me energized and, and powerful? Even things as simple as that, there are not the level of independence that would really be ideal. Okay, even in those situations. So that is, in my humble opinion. I will always qualify that that's my opinion. You're entitled to yours. So those are the 4 stages. So what I came to realize was that my family was, like most people, really, really deep in stage 2. They were not in stage 3 where I was. I was in kind of like late stage 3 mentally, but financially, I was in stage 2 as well. So they were like, well, if you have this problem in stage 2, then here's the stage 2 solution. I wasn't listening because my brain was not operating in stage 2. But once I understood that, it was kind of like when I learned, if you guys have ever heard of Gary, what's his name now? It's on the tip of my tongue. The 5 love languages. I can't think of his last name. But anyway, where he goes to explain 5 languages of learn that, I saw my husband in a completely different way. In a similar way, when you understand where stages are, and in whatever particular area of life, because you can be in many different stages in many different areas of life, just depends on what it is, but in whatever area of life you feel like friction with a family member or a coworker or a boss, notice what stage they're in and notice what stage you're thinking in. And that's probably why there's some friction. And once you can recognize that, you can let it go, and it will clear you up to be able to continue to up level, to be able to continue to grow and expand and improve without worrying about other people's opinions, which is not easy to do if you really don't understand that they're just literally coming from a different perspective than your own. So I hope this framework helps. Please let me know in the comments that you're here. So like I said, if I see 5 different people who've commented, I will post the model of this framework. And yeah, that's it. So have a wonderful weekend. We're going to have some fun. I'll throw up some questions, and everyone can engage in some conversation. This is a family, so please speak up. Please say what you need. And if you can offer help to somebody, offer it. I've already seen that happening here in the group already in the first week. So bravo to all of you, and much love. Bye.